What's going on, football fam? My name is Dave Sarner, and welcome to another edition of the Rise and Fall Fantasy Football Show, Week 9 edition. Now, in this week's games, we're going to be going over every single game on the Week 9 docket, as always. So just so you know, we cover one episode per game this week, so there's going to be a lot of episodes coming your way. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel, ring that bell so you'll get notified when all of my videos go live, and then you'll have all that content ready for this Sunday. Now, with all that being said, enjoy the episode for Week 9. On this episode, we're going over another 1 o'clock matchup here between the Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Atlanta Falcons are the home team and are the 4-point favorites, with the visiting Denver Broncos coming into town. The over-under in this game is 50. Don't know if it's going to quite get there. We did see the Broncos kind of step up last week. Drew Lock kind of played better than he has in the past. Absolutely, probably his best game by far, if we had to guess. But let's be real here. Even if it wasn't, they are playing the Atlanta Falcons this week, and that Falcons team is letting up a lot of points to quarterbacks, a lot of points to wide receivers, and a ton of points to tight ends, which is really big for this game. I emphasize the tight ends for a reason here, because that is where the strength of this Denver Broncos team is right now. Drew Lock, last week, 19.8 fantasy points, 248 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This was kind of what we were hoping to see from him earlier, and now it seems like he's back. He's healthy. It seems like he's getting rapport with some of these other players. Deshaun Hamilton came in, 16 points. Lindsey had 15. He went back to the guys that he was familiar with. But listen, Jerry Jeudy had 9 points. Hamler had 8 points. Noah Fant had 8 points. 7 points for Melvin Gordon. Albert Okwuegbunam, I don't even know how you say it. Albert O put up the 7 points, And so there is a lot of distribution here, and that tells me that this team has some weapons. Good. Because this is the week you want to fire them up, baby. Quarterbacks, Falcons, giving up the most points to quarterbacks, most points to tight ends, and the 5th most points to wide receivers. So Jerry Jeudy, this is the week fire him up. I dropped him in my one league last week, and now I'm kicking myself. Tim Patrick might be back this week. I do like him in this matchup too. I had him lower in my rankings, I'll be honest with you. So that might be something that I increase here. He's at number 43 right now. Above guys like Darius Slayton, Cobb, Amendola. Remember, Kenny Galladay's out, so that's not a bad spot for him to be at. He is right below like Amari Cooper, Corey Davis, Curtis Samuel at 38, Mike Williams at 37. And then you kind of get into the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 range. So he is on that cusp of being a legit wide receiver 3 this week, or rather a wide receiver 4 flex, I would say. But in a week where you could see, we don't have Odell, Debo, Edelman, Galladay might be out. You might need some options. Fulgham is out. Boyd's out. Higgins is out. Woods, Kupp, Landry. There's a lot of guys out. This is one of those guys, Tim Patrick, that might be a nice bye week filler if you need. It's a great matchup for them. As we said, top points or most points given up to quarterbacks and tight ends in the league, Atlanta is. So you should expect the Broncos to come in and play this pretty well, because their defense is the better defense of the two teams. And that offense finally got some things going last week. With that being said, let's key in on the guys that you should be starting in your lineups. Drew Lock, great DFS option, great deep sleeper option to pick up here too. If you are desperate for a quarterback and, you're in the league, a lot of teams this year have their backup quarterback. I'm glad to see that people are starting to realize, hey, we need depth everywhere this year because of how everything is going with the injuries now on top of COVID. This is the kind of area where you like Drew Lock. He might still be there for you, though. Most leagues, if you have the, not as deep leagues, Drew Lock should be there, and he could be a really good option for you this week. I have him a little low on my list, but I'm going to move him up here. I really do like the matchup. And you know what? I say low. He's at number 14. I have him over Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Tua, Teddy Bridgewater. Not bad, guys. Only guys I have above him is like Newton, Tannehill, and arguably you could say Tannehill's a really bad matchup that Drew Lock could be the guy. But I'm going to be on the reserved here, and you go with your depth and your, go with your heart on that or your gut on that. I personally would end up probably going Ryan Tannehill, even in a super tough matchup after I just talked about him on the previous episode. It's a little tough, but I would still probably stick with Tannehill because of the overall production and consistency that he's been showing even if the minimum is 17 points. But the ceiling this week is much higher for Drew Lock than Ryan Tannehill. I just think Tannehill's floor is a little bit higher. That's all. Going on the other side of things here. Oh, sorry. So actually going back to that, we have Drew Lock. Start him. I love the matchup here. DFS sleeper, in my opinion, this week. Pair him with a guy like Noah Fant. Number one, again, most points against quarterbacks and tight ends. Noah Fant should absolutely be starting. He is probably going to be up on my rankings even more than he already is. He is right now at number 5, and I might move him up ahead of Mark Andrews, because Mark Andrews has the toughest matchup of the week against the toughest tight end defense in the Indianapolis Colts. And you know what? I am actually going to do that right now as we're speaking. Noah Fant has been officially moved up to number 4 on my list. I am putting the hype on him now. Albert O, listen, he could be on this list as well. I do like the volume potential for both these guys. And it seems like every single game, Drew Lock's getting a little bit more, targets to Albert O. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they went to school together. Am I wrong about that? Is Albert O from Missouri? Albert O. Wikiwiram. I don't even know how to say his name. Yeah, he's from Missouri. So they're college teammates. So I do like Albert O this week as a really deep sleeper here. And I said before on a different episode about Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet, I don't like the duality of that relationship, the two of them kind of stealing production from each other. Here it's a little different. Noah Fant's your number 1. O is going to be your number 2, and the two of them can be productive. We saw it last week where, let's see, Noah Fant had 9 targets last week, had 7 catches for 47 yards, nothing too crazy. And guess this, Albert O, he only had his 1 catch for 1 reception, 9 yards and a touch. Nothing too crazy for him. So volume's not exactly there for Albert O. That's why he's a deep sleeper. But it's not a terrible matchup. It's the best matchup you're going to get in the NFL right now for tight ends. And Drew Lock does like his tight ends. So I would not be surprised to see Albert O get a little bit more involved this week. I'm not going out of my way to say he's going to be a top 15 tight end. Noah Fant, top 5, absolutely. But not Albert O at the top 15. I do think he could be a really sneaky deep flyer if you truly need someone to throw in your lineup and it's a deep league where there's no tight ends. Outside of that, wide receiver, Falcons giving up the 5th most points wide receiver. Love Jerry Jeudy this week, like I mentioned. Do like Tim Patrick. Running game is where I'm a little hesitant. Falcons are pretty good, actually, against the running backs. 23rd most points given up to running backs. So not a lot of production against them in that department. I'm a little hesitant, especially with Lindsey back, who kind of took the lead here and is eating into the production of Melvin Gordon. It's going to be kind of a 1A, 1B type situation here. And against this defense, I'm not overly thrilled. In fact, part of me might like Philip Lindsey from a passing perspective more. And I say that hesitantly because any week it could be the one or the other. But this is not one of those matchups that I'm overly excited about for Melvin Gordon in particular and Philip Lindsey. I do think Lindsey has value, though, because of how bad the passing game is in Atlanta. This thing could be a little bit more, there could be a lot more passing production here from Drew Lock, and he finally put that together in a good week, 248, like we said, 3 touchdowns on the day. So I'm going to go with start Drew Lock, start the receivers, start the tight ends. You're going to maybe start Melvin Gordon, but it's going to be a tough one. I don't think he's going to be as good this week. I'm probably going to put him down on my rankings. And in Philip Lindsey, kind of the same boat, but I think he actually might have a little more potential from a passing perspective, unless they decide to get that volume to Melvin Gordon, which is very possible. And then on the other side of things, the Falcons, Matt Ryan and company, Matt Ryan gets on my goddamn nerves, and I cannot stand him. Can't stand him. Every time I think he's going to do bad, he does good, and does good, does bad. I'm over it. This week, Denver, decently tough matchup here. They are giving up the 12th most points to quarterbacks, so it's not a bad matchup. And the receiving game and the wide receivers is where you can get some damage done against the Broncos. So I'm going to cautiously say that Matt Ryan is a decent play this week. He might have the bounce back and 20-plus point game this week, the boom game. And I'm hoping Calvin Ridley's back. We'll see. I'll keep you updated on that to see if he is there. If he's there, Julio, him, you start. If Ridley's not in, obviously you're starting Julio regardless. Russell Gage is an option there if you need to. Hayden Hurst, I don't love this week. 21st against the tight ends, the Broncos are. Not a great matchup. And I really don't like Todd Gurley this week. Probably the toughest area of the Broncos defense, giving up the 24th most amount of points. So quarterbacks, wide receivers, you start them on both sides here. If Ridley's out, Russell Gage could be an interesting option. I think he'll have to get involved more. It could end up being Zacchaeus and, whatever. But Julio must start, in my opinion. He's going to have a good game. I do like Matt Ryan in this matchup. Don't love him, but I like him. On the other side of things, of course, Drew Lock, like we said, Noah Fant, Albert O, deep DFS sleeper. He only had 1 target, 1 catch last week, so don't look too much into that. But great matchup. Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, love them as well. I do love Drew Lock this week. He's 10th on my list. No, 10th on my list? Was I wrong about that? I said that before.